How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to ReWrite, where I gotta get a big smile on my face already because whenever I load up a scene, like getting ready to record, it kind of plays the last line again, and this line delivery is just so spectacularly adorable. It's hard not to smile for. All right, so we got to see in the last two parts the kind of real story of Lucia. Got to know a bit more about her role in Guardian, how she was like part of a test program to simulate on a mental and somewhat physical sense what the Earth will be like in 1,000 years because of human, like, you know, self-destruction essentially, and trying to prepare people who can live at that time. And Lucia is one of the people who has been in fact, she's the only one apparently. And so her future essentially is to be put into what I'm guessing is going to be a suspension when they maybe when they find the other participant who can go. And then they suspend them and send them to the future on this kind of Hail Mary type of activity of trying to get them to not, like, to let humanity exist in the future. So, yeah. I have a lot of problems with this plan, and the biggest one I have to say is, like, while I don't know everything about Gaia's plan, honestly, it seems like their plans are very similar. Guardian's just trying to bang on the fact that humanity might be able to course correct before the world ends. So, like, that maybe that's really the biggest difference, is that Guardian hasn't given up on humanity. They're just preparing for the worst case scenario, where Gaia has given up on humanity and is deciding to do a full reset with the understanding that such resets have happened before and humanity made it through last time. And so, like, the idea is that it's not too far-fetched to believe that somebody will survive through the reset. And so it's kind of, it's interesting because at least with Gaia's plan, you're counting on an Earth that's still alive and not poison. Guardian, Lucia is part of their ultimate fallback, while they're hoping that they'll be able to actually recover and change the course of the future of humanity in time. And when I was thinking about it in those terms, I suddenly was more torn. I'm not sure which one I like more. It kind of almost depends on when you ask. So anyway, let's not dilly-dally too much. Let's jump right into the content, because now I feel like before we get too much into the heavy stuff, this is going to be about reassessing the new pseudo-relationship that Kotorou and Lucia have now. Because remember, Kotorou essentially promised to be with her forever, and she's kind of clarified that being with her forever would mean literally going to the future with her. And so we did it in a church, and it was witnessed, and so, like, Lucia might take it super seriously, and Kotorou, when contemplating that fact, because Suzaru was right to bring it up, and he's like, you know what, I'm not entirely sure I want to clear up that misunderstanding, because maybe I want that to be real. So I imagine we're just about to be awash in adorableness today. Let's jump in. So she's, like, apologizing for kicking us out. Oh boy, that dinner sure was something, and who knew the dessert would pack such a punch? The next day, Lucia apologizes for making me eat a knuckle sandwich after our dinner. I mean, I can see where she's coming from. I doubt she expected to be seen by Suzaru of all people. Suzaru didn't mean any harm either, I'm sure. She's happy her best friend's dream came true, so she just hid in the shadows to get a glimpse of it happening. No one else thinks as dearly of Lucia as she does. Water under the bridge. Besides, it's been a long time since I had a taste of my home cooking. That was special. That expression says, I'm happy you're happy, but I'm also a little concerned that you're happy, because, like, should you be happy? Lucia shrinks back at the mention of home cooking. Her sense of taste is pretty far removed from a normal person's. She had to enlist Suzuru's help to get the seasoning right for me. Knowing just how headstrong she can be, she probably feels sorry that she wasn't able to accomplish it entirely on her own efforts. Let's move past that then. What's more important is that I have to repay her for earnestly taking on my request that was nothing more than a bad joke from me. That's true. In hindsight, like, it's one of the things where, like, he was just throwing it out there because he was, like, bored and having a good time and everything. Because he likes the reactions. Like, he wasn't expecting anything. He just liked watching Lucia freak out about the possibility. And so then once she actually complied, I think he genuinely felt kind of guilty, because he's like, especially with how she actually got the maid outfit that was from, like, the visual novel that he was inspired by, even if it was, like, subconsciously. I could see why he'd feel bad. I have a personal investment in why he might feel bad. She worked up the courage to invite me to her place. This time, I've got to step up and ask her out.
別に私はお前と交際しているつもりなど
She's gonna blue screen. Oh, oops. Guess I was a bit straightforward with that. I mean, you know, it's almost a harvest festival, right? I was thinking of doing some reporting work for it. So, like, you know, just be to scope out the place, basically just take a walk around. Be pretty boring if it was just me. So maybe you'd want to join or something? Nope. Nope. He pushed too hard. I think she's not on the planet anymore. Just as Shizuru said, going on a date with a guy seems to be #1 on her list of dreams. Her face is so red, I could already imagine the steam blowing out of her ears, just like in old cartoons. Lucy is absolutely trembling. The way she's acting, she's liable to let loose a punch or two to hide her embarrassment. His danger sense. It's kicking in. But, like, I'm seeing here, like, I really get why people like Lucia. These reactions are some peak adorableness, I have to admit. Especially if you're on, like, the kind of tsundere type of, you know, spiel, like if you enjoy that archetype. Because she's a bit more of the wholesome type, where it doesn't feel like it's just an excuse to have, like, the trope box hit. Lucia does tend to turn to violence, but I feel like she's kind of extreme because her whole life has been a life of extremes. So it makes sense for her to either be, like, pleasant and, like, compiled, or pushing people away to the point of violence, because those have been kind of her survival methods. But at the same time, it is really adorable to see her on a back foot by stuff like as simple as what we would consider simple as being like, thanks for having me over for dinner. I want to go on a date. Like, these things, of course, would make anyone, like, nervous, but, like, she's, like, just having an aneurysm, and it's just hilarious. That's why I panicked and apologized for joking about going on a date, saying that I just wanted someone to accompany me on my stroll.
そうか。なら最初から散歩に付き合えと言えばいいもの。
Yeah, a date might have to be eased into a bit.
デートなどと不穏不埒不謹慎な単語。
It's not improper or immoral. At least it's a lot less immoral than the licking plate thing. My bad. Should have told you outright. I won't ever use the word date again. The word is sealed for all eternity. Forgive me.
いや、別に言葉狩りのつもりはないぞ。
He's gone too far the other way now. She's like, wait. Like, eventually that might be a thing. Don't pretend that I don't want it to be never occurring.
天王寺がその言葉を使うのにふさわしい時と相手がいたなら、その時に使えばいい。
Yeah. Okay. I can see a lot of times when it comes to a dating candidate, I might not be able to pick Lucia as my favorite because of this. It depends on what notes she's hitting. But I see a lot of myself in Lucia, where when it comes to these types of matters, I'm always a very serious individual, and she's the same way. Like, for her, it's hard to have a casual date because the word date has a connotation to it, and that connotation is essentially the process of looking for someone whom you want to have, like, a physical relationship and potentially marry someday. Now, that's extreme, especially when you're in school. You don't need to assume every date's you looking for your spouse. That's not how that actually works. But for someone who's very, you know, serious coded, for like Lucia and I, we have trouble just making things super casual because what we look at is always futures, planning, like preparation, seeing what might be around the next corner. It's part of how I'm guessing Lucia, and part of how I definitely, you know, relieve stress. If I can plan things out, if I can see and orchestrate a long-term thing. In fact, that's how I run my channel. A lot of people have been kind of confused by things like, why did I start a Patreon when I did? Why have I been running the channel in the ways I have? Like, why haven't I played some of the games they know I want to play, like Clanad? Well, that's because I want to make sure I maintain good relationships with developers. I want to establish patterns of success. I want to run the channel now as if I had 1 million subscribers because I don't want people to be surprised. I don't want to suddenly change direction. I don't want things to take me off guard. If I'm going to get wrinkles or if I'm going to step on toes or if I'm going to cause issues, I want to know about it now. So I try to run things as if I have 1 million, 2 million, 10 million subscribers. It's never going to be there, or if it is, it's going to take a long time. But by acting and behaving in a way today as if it is that type of endgame type time, then I know I'm prepared for it. So Lucia is probably approaching dating in the same way, where she wants to treat dates as if it is serious because she wants to know that when she goes into it, she knows kind of where she stands. And I can really respect that because I totally get it. I had a lot of dates, but going through high school, but it was interesting because I certainly turned down more people than I actually took out on dates. And a lot of that was because of this attitude where I just didn't see that person in a, like I couldn't see some of those girls as people who I was like, I could see this going potentially long-term, potentially being an actual boyfriend-girlfriend. And so I never really even allowed the casual level of the dating to happen. And I probably should have, because I might have been surprised. I might have been able to experience more conversations and interesting like experiences that could have taught me a lot and helped me be better prepared for the future. But I was too caught up in all the details. You're right. I shouldn't treat the word date so lightly. Date? Date? Date!
軽々しく使うな。神聖な言葉だぞ。
Yes, of course. I'll be careful. Date, date, date. Relax. We're gonna go on a walk, not a date. Date, date, date! He's so mean. He's so mean. He's just absolutely pushing her buttons. What the heck's up with this conversation? She's beet red, trembling while looking straight down. It feels like I've sullied a maiden's innocence by showing her the filthy truth of an adult's reality. What a guilty pleasure. To blend of pure joy like stepping on a freshly fallen snow mixed with the more wicked delight of possessiveness. Oh man, go through. You don't have to turn to a jerk. Crap, if I give in to this bliss, I'm gonna fall to the dark side. Buddy, I think you're already there. And seriously, Lucia, quit overreacting over the word date.
すまん。取り乱した。だが天王寺も二度と軽々しくその言葉を使うんじゃないぞ。
I think she wouldn't be bothered if it was, like, she'd be annoyed if other people were doing it, but because it's Tennouji and because she now has this kind of pseudo bond with him where she suddenly has the option, I think she's really, really, really delicately dancing around it because, like, I think she's having to seriously ask herself the questions like, wait, so the only person in the entire world I could actually potentially go on a date with is Kotorou. And he's been really good, and she probably thinks he's cute, and she's like thinking all of this, but then she also is like, but he's like the only one. So maybe he so the wrinkles are gonna be a little bit more like wrinkly, if that makes sense. Because now she has to take it seriously. Because at first it was just a dream. Now it can be a reality, but with only one person. So she doesn't want to mess things up. And she's probably terrified of like whether or not it's actually what she wants, or if she's just caught up in the time and like the rarity that it is that someone can interact with her. All right, I got it already. So could you put those spiked gloves away?
分かればいい。
Oh, geez.
分かれば。
I thought he was just joking. I've recently developed a knack for figuring out when she's just on the cusp of letting her fists fly in an effort to hide her embarrassment. It's so dang fun to mess with Lucia verbally, though. I should do it again the next chance I get. No, you shouldn't. Anyway, I managed to secure us to a date. I swore that I would never let her be alone. I didn't take that promise lightly when I told her. That's why I want to get to know Lucia more. Surely Lucia too. Her special body was a curse to her, one that never let her go on a date with another guy, but it's time for her to realize those days of bitterness will soon be in the past. It's time for her to bid farewell to those sad, painful days and grow into a new self. And at the end of it all, maybe she can finally take off those gloves, manifest her wounded heart. Still, for a late bloomer like Lucia, she wouldn't be able to ask someone out on a date on her own. As the guy here, I have to step up to the plate and ask her out instead. That's how it should be. Yeah, it's not so much that, like, I like how he's pointing out that, like, normally, like, it's not unreasonable for a girl to ask a guy out. Like, it's really not. But Lucia, not only has she just been so estranged from the concept, probably for her own mental sanity, that she might not even really know how to do it in a way that she could be brave enough to. And she also seems very much a staunch traditionalist. So she probably wants a guy to be able to come in and proverbially sweep her off her feet. That aside, Lucia sure is pretty funny. She is, actually. She's hilarious. At this rate, I might get addicted to teasing her, though. That would be bad, but also I could totally understand.
小太郎、早速デートに誘ったか。
Yeah, she was super shy about it, though. Her embarrassment was so over the top, I even started getting embarrassed.
ルチアがさっき飛んできて教えてくれた。
Aww.
相当浮かれていた。
Suzaru is who I tended to be in high school. I certainly had my interest in dating and relationships, but I tended to be a bit more of like, not an intentional matchmaker, but there were actually, I had people come up to me and thank me for like introducing them, because like people who got introduced and became like either lifelong friends or started dating or both, because I kind of liked playing this mediation point for people. And oftentimes like I just was good at listening, and that meant I often actually heard what people were saying, where most of the time it kind of went over people's heads, especially when you're caught up in emotions. And so I was able to kind of be a bridge a couple times and help. Excited? Like how?
体がふわふわ浮いてるみたいな感
Aww, that's adorable. She's literally had her head in the clouds, huh?
じ。まさか自分の一番の夢が
Oh
こん
my
なにばっ
gosh.
かり叶うとは思ってなかったんだよ。
Bitch, Kotorou, you really need to not
嬉
mess
し
with
泣
her.
きしてた。
At the same time, though, she was on cloud 9 despite the teasing. Maybe a part of her actually kind of likes it, and in fact, she might expect it from him. So, like, if he stopped teasing her altogether, she'd probably just think he's being weird. But, like, he's got to be careful with it. She was about to make me cry tears of pain with those spiked gloves of hers, though. I'm starting to see how Lucia expresses herself now. That's troubling. She's just incredibly bashful, the kind of person who can't honestly admit how happy she really feels. Shizuru knows that all too well. That's why she's going out of her way to tell me how happy Lucia is. Thanks for letting me know. Don't worry, I know full well how she hides her embarrassment.
慣れるとルチアは感情が読みやすい。
That's true. It's like once you have the cipher, once you've got the rhythm down, it's like you could just she wears it on her sleeve. Same, like that's another similarity. She and I, like, we cannot keep emotional secrets from people who know how to read us. You said it. Back then I thought she was some kind of mood enigma. Couldn't get a read on her at all. But when you get used to it, she practically wears her heart on her sleeve.
嘘のつけないタイプだ。
Yeah. You got that right. She's so open, I'm actually worried whether she can make it in today's harsh society. Oh, right. No trying to get a peek this time around. Got it? Stalking is forbidden.
そうか。
Oh, she's like, dang it!
残念。
She's gonna try, isn't she? Up until the day of our date, I consult with Shizuru on several occasions. Apparently, Lucy has been getting a little too fired up on the first date of her life that she so dearly wished for. So now her expectations might be a bit too lofty. I have Shizuru tell Lucia that she should just wear something casual and just relax and take it easy. This is especially important because according to Shizuru, Lucia initially planned to come with a 12-layered ceremonial kimono or something. Oh my gosh! Like seriously, we're just going out for a walk outside or walk down the aisle. On a side note, Lucia has been acting particularly cold toward me in classroom lately. Even Kotorou asked me if we were fighting or something. Nothing to worry about though. I can see right through Lucia. Is she like terrified that people are gonna know? She's so happy and embarrassed about it that she can't take it anymore, so instead she's being especially distant. Oh, right. Yeah, she starts losing emotional control, so she's put up a wall so she like can focus on life. If it were the old me, I'd think she was upset over something. The me now, though, I know it's all just an act to mask her shyness, and that just fascinates me. Konohana Lucia can be such an honest yet awkward girl. That's like the definition of her. But it's exactly that part of her. That's what makes me want to take this opportunity to grant every single one of her humble dreams. Every one of them, huh? I'm sure there's humble dreams she hasn't talked about yet. Oh.
認識かく乱能力を持つ鍵をどう発見するかだ。
Right. The B plot, which is going to be Guardian. In a dimly lit conference room, an aged man seated at the head of the table speaks to his cohorts.
いても気づけぬ亡霊をいかにして捉えるというのだ。
アウロラの検出が最も決定的となります。
その検出はどうやって、その精度は。
特別な機材によってのみ検出が可能です。我が国は欧州教区で最もその技術に優れています。
Now, the European diocese, which is interesting. So, like, that implies that Guardian, like, the way they've labeled themselves, or maybe this could be Gaia, I guess. It depends on who we're listening in on. But whoever this is, they view themselves organizationally more like a church, or even maybe an offshoot of the church. So, Guardian might actually be a subservient, not subservient, like a subdivision of something like the Catholic Church. Or maybe the Templars been repurposed. Because diocese is very much a religious and I believe a Christian religious term. Like, so I'm guessing it is Guardian. And that's the idea but like they've phased away from the religious side of it and are focused purely on the preservation of humanity on Earth and human dominion on the Earth.
投入する人員と機材によりますが、40人のスタッフが3週間の従事でほぼ潜伏場所を特定できます。
Alright, so it is Guardian.
ガーディアンフランスの半分の期間です。ただしこれは疑わしき潜伏地域を直径1マイルのエリアに特定した上での話になります。
Now, and if the key is hiding at the heart of the forest, that would be difficult, and it could explain why, like the Kotorou's lab was under so much a constant assault, and yet was still undetected, because they were able to narrow down their search to like that portion of the forest. But the wards she set up would be very effective against people who are looking for something but don't have a clear location as to where, because then it would be kind of deflected away from it. But it also explains why eventually the barrier fell, because enough patrolling and enough detailed note-taking, it would become apparent, like to technological stuff that wouldn't be tricked by that. That there would be a section in the heart of that area that nobody could get to. Once you know that, I imagine it would be a lot easier to penetrate the barrier.
つまり疑わしき情報を精査するのにかかる時間が3週間という認識で良いのかね。
その認識で問題ないかと。
さらにその上、事前に疑わしい地域を直径1マイルにまで限定する必要があると。
その通りです、クラレンス卿。
Gotta say, like the audio here is like clipping a little bit. It's really weird. Like, so if you're hearing that too, it's not me, it's the game. The elderly man named Lord Clarence stands up and opens a crack in the curtains. Bright sunlight streams in. What can be seen behind the curtain are a magnificent cityscape and an imposing clock tower, Big Ben. Those in the room are the leaders of Guardian UK, the English branch in the European diocese.
続けてくれ。それでは、鍵の潜伏情報を。
SIS では録画記録に注視しています。鍵の認識か乱能力は人体に直接作用することで発揮します。
Go.
よって工学的なものではありません。
If that's true, and she can't like alter with technological stuff, it'd be over in modern day with drones and like body cameras, GoPros. Like you'd be able to find it.
知覚できないが見えてはいるということか。
Oh, but I guess it depends on the aura. Like if she only can affect things within her range, you might still not recognize it on your recording device, but then you'd play it back later and you'd see her. Unless it's like some kind of permanent imprint that she can do. That'd be interesting.
道端の石ころとお思いください。誰の目にも見えているが、誰も意識に留めないため、知覚されず、記憶されないわけです。
なるほど。つまりカメラやビデオの録画記録にはその姿が残るということか。
Yeah.
はい。我々人類が鍵を視認できる唯一の方法です。
See, that almost makes me wonder, like, would it be, like, because, like, if the filter's all you need, then you could potentially wear kind of, like, glasses that are just projecting, like, a camera feed, and maybe that would let you circumvent the system, but in her presence, it might still not work. Like, the screen would project her image, but you might not be able to see it in your eyes.
まるで心霊写真だ。歩兵携帯の画像投影式の赤外線スコープのようなものでは発見できないのか。
Yeah, that's actually an interesting question.
鍵の姿はスコープに投影されるでしょうが、至近距離では認識か乱によってその認知がやはり妨げられます。
So the real answer would be drones, because it like I was speculating before, getting close to it would still block the perception even if you were looking at a screen with her image on it. But the idea is that you go away from her cloaking ability and you look at that video feed, you'd be able to see it. So drone from a distance or sniper with a scope far enough away, that might do it too. if range is the big one. So maybe sniping is the best way to take her out, like in practice. But yeah, we'll have to see. If she appears on the and they're saying though, if IR does work, if she gives us an IR image, first of all, scientifically, that's a fascinating idea because the reason, like, we glow with IR light because we emit heat, because we have particles in us that are wiggling around, and that wiggling around emits a light, a very faint light, but it's a light, and if you have the right camera and you're tuned to the right frequency, you can see that light through some objects. Like, it's that easy to, it makes it like really easy to track a person. And you can even use it from like a helicopter. That's how they can track like people that the police are chasing, is with IR light. So I wonder why she emits an IR spectra, because she may look like a girl, but she's not. Is it just that she's wearing a shell that mimics a human body and thus it emits the same properties as one? Because it almost feels like that's almost like inefficient. Why not craft a body that looks human but out of material that's not? Kind of like the Gaia's puppets in there, the familiars. They might look like giant dogs or a Tyrannosaurus, but like they're not made of flesh and bone. Like maybe some bone, because like that can be the core of like the Tyrannosaurus, but the ultimate thing is that they don't, like, when you break them down, they're not even made of the same material. So I would imagine they wouldn't give off IR light. Like, I don't think they would have like internal body heat.
しかし、その映像を受信した遠距離の本部では視認することが可能です。
Okay.
話を戻そう。SIS の調査について説明を。
先月からロンドンで集中的に行われている交通量調査キャンペーンの結果と街頭防犯カメラの画像を重ね合わせて分析しています。
I mean, the thing is like that what he's saying here is essentially they're looking for a discrepancy, but with a data set that large, you're gonna probably have just missing data points of like where cameras misinterpreted data or had a glitch.
人間の数取り機の数字と防犯カメラの映像を照らし合わせ、
ヒューマンエラーかもしれない。信頼性は低いな。
Agree.
こちらの映像をご覧ください。これは先月のパディントン駅前の防犯カメラの映像です。
この園内にご注目ください。
交通調査員のアルバイトか。
Though the footage is in black and white, it's clear and crisp, as expected from England, the first world country that is part of the war against terror. The video shows a clear image of a typical street by a train station. In the midst of the throngs of people coming and going stands a young officer, diligently tallying the people passing by. The street itself is more of a side street than a main thoroughfare, so there are comparatively few passers-by. The youth assigned to the street more than likely thinks himself lucky. Suddenly, a young girl appears in the corner of the screen with an arrow marked following her.
この少女が鍵だというのか。
Interesting. So if this is the case, then what she's probably been doing is been hopping between power spots across the planet and doing her observations. And it's just that when she emerged in the spot here in Kazamatsuri, Kotorou found her, and based on the instructions of the druids, she's protecting her, but also trying to prevent her from leaving, which could be preventing her from, like, enacting, like, the ultimate death plan, essentially, or whatever it is she comes to do. And that's what it is. It's simply trying to hold on to her until she gets bored and maybe just gives up the mission. That's the best way to prevent it from happening. Or to just remain ever vigilant and just keep it on a pause button for the rest of eternity and just pass down knowledge to the next druid and try and perpetuate the halting of the apocalypse, essentially. The girl walks in the direction of the crowd but can clearly be singled out. That makes her stand out even further. Even without the added arrow in the video pointing her out, her presence is clearly out of the ordinary. A young girl walks about one of the capital city's train stations all alone. A particularly diligent officer would have called out to her, wondering perhaps whether she's run away from home. That's how much she stands out.
ここです。お分かりになりましたか。スローになりますので、よくご覧ください。
交通調査員は少女のカウンターを撃っていません。
見過ごしたのでは。
Just as he suggests the possibility, he quickly learns how impossible that is. As for why, the girl is one and the only person on the street. There are no crowds for her to blend into. She very plainly stands out. Perhaps he was asleep? That isn't possible either. The footage clearly shows him hard at work. Before and after the girl's appearance, he was accurately keeping count of every passerby. Even the girl walks by. The video clearly shows him at attention the entire time, making sure not to miss a single person. The girl walks right by the security camera's field of vision without the officer taking front account of her.
少女は何者だ。この先の映像は。そして、そこには交通調査員は。
Now, if they're talking, like, remember, so this is like War on Terror era. War on Terror era. They don't have modern technology, but I think they probably, especially in the higher echelons, had pretty decent facial recognition technology, especially in the UK. I imagine once you've got footage of her, wouldn't that make it a lot easier to find her in other clips?
この後の様子を各ブロック交差点のカメラが捉えています。その後、もう一度別の交通調査員の前を通過しています。
カウントは
されませんでした。SIS はこの2名の交通調査員とすでに接触。彼らにこの映像を見せ、当日の記憶を遡らせましたが、少女について全く記憶にないと証言しました。
Interesting.
現在、この2名には精密検査を受けさせています。視力、精神、睡眠障害の有無、すべてです。結果は来週ですが、初見では両名に異常は認められませんでした。
少女が鍵である可能性は何%と計上している？
MI5、G ブランチは 45% と見ています。
すでに SIS 内に専従班を編成。少女の動向をロンドンの全カメラで把握し、少なくとも彼女がこの1ヶ月間、ロンドンに潜伏し続けていることを把握しています。
That's almost making me wonder because, like, is she not in Kazamatsuri right now? Like, if we're on this path, is she not hiding with Kotorou in the heart of the forest? Or does she flit about around the world all the time, even when Kotorou is supposed to be keeping her safe and protected? Or are there multiple avatars of hers traveling around the world, like, simultaneously? That's also a possibility.
顔から素性は割れたのか？少女の正体は？
アンノウンです、クラレンス卿。
The elderly man gingerly stands up from the sofa. Guardian's one and only principal objective is the capture of the key. There would be no greater feat to anyone in this organization tasked with protecting the world.
首相のお耳に入れる。近日中に作戦の政治許可を取る。SIS は直ちに鍵捕獲の特殊部隊を編成。人員と機材を集めろ。防犯カメラ監視スタッフを増員。
Yeah, if officers will be searching for a girl with her appearance. If footage can be located, then they can much more easily pinpoint her location.
諸君も分かっているだろうが、本件は最重要秘匿とする。
無論です。心得ております。万一、ガイアにもそれを気取られることがあれば。
Right.
違う。分かっておらんな、君は。
The older man slowly turns his back to him. He opens a crack in the curtain once more, gazing at the bright city outside as he continues.
鍵は世界を滅ぼす地獄の鍵であると同時に、天より使わされた御使いなのだ。
Interesting. I always thought that they were attempting to kill her, but maybe not.
天の使者は我が英国に舞い降りられた。神は御使いの降臨に全世界からこの英国を選ばれたのだ。
Oh no.
鍵捕獲は我が英国にのみ与えられた最高の栄誉である。ガイアは愚か、他教国も譲りはしない。
So despite all of their platitudes, Guardian is just as flawed as the rest of humanity, of course, which makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, are we worth saving?
主よ、我らが女王陛下にご加護を賜りたまえ。そしてご加護が降臨されたのだ。
So at least this part of the organization is very religious. Oh Lord, keep safe our queen. Those are the words inscribed in Latin upon the base of each clock face at Westminster Palace Clock Tower. The report from Guardian Japan regarding the possibility of the key hiding within Kazamatsuri and the request for support have been forgotten entirely. Okay, yeah, okay, so they are seeing her in London and in Japan. Fascinating. So I wonder if that does mean that there's multiple like versions of the key.
良い知らせと悪い知らせがある。どちらからがいいかね。
いい知らせからお願いしますわ。
おめでとう。鍵確保の手柄は 君が独り占めできることに決まった。
あらあら、ありがとうございます。
Nishi Kyojo breathes a deep sigh with as much sarcasm as she can muster. She's been given the honor to do it herself. To put it another way, there isn't anyone else around to do it with her.
悪い知らせは？
ワイルドウィーゼルは来ない。
なぜ？代わりは？
ない。北米教区は一切の応援を拒否した。
Weird. Because the key's supposed to be like the big thing, right? So why do they just not care? Unless all the dioceses are seeing the keys and they're all like really excited about it.
欧州にも応援のつてがあったのでは？
欧州教区も同じだ。すべての特殊部隊が現在即応待機になっており、一切のオーダーをキャンセルしている。南米、アフリカ、ロシア、中国、中東、豪州、極東太平洋すべて。日本に送る余力を持つ教区は存在しない。
Weird.
あらあら。なるほど。それでは手柄は私の独り占めかしら。
そうなるな。だから、おめでとう。
Wild Weasels is a squad of special forces from the Guardian North America that Nishi Kyojo requested for deployment. As a squad specializing in search and destroy operations against non-human beings, they are one of Guardian's aces in the whole. Nishi Kyojo only had a small pool of elite talent within the Japanese branch to draw from. That would normally be enough to cover for covert search operations in Kazamatsuri, where Gaia has control. However, especially now that the key's whereabouts have been located, it is nowhere near enough manpower for the key's capture or assassination, and the subsequent large-scale confrontation against Gaia. Having been tipped off with some particularly accurate information about the key's existence in Kazamatsuri, Nishi Kyojo wanted to seize the initiative and requested a dispatch of powerful forces from the foreign dioceses. Among those, the Wild Weasels were exceptionally effective. She had been awaiting their arrival, so she could not just capture the key, but retake Kazamatsuri entirely.
世界で何か動きが？
ガイアに先手を打たれた。世界中で今、鍵が自国に潜伏しているとする怪情報が飛び交っている。
Okay. So now they're making it sound like Gaia might be, like, maybe as a way to try and just, distract Guardian. Maybe the key is actually just here, but they're making, like, other versions of the key that are spoofs, that are just simply to distract. Since Gaia hasn't been twiddling its thumbs in the meantime, they must have sensed that Nishi Kyojo was preparing for a battle after requesting a special forces deployment. At the same time, they are cognizant of Nishi Kyojo's own forces and that they aren't going to be able to put up much of a fight. Gaia must have spread misinformation that the key is lurking about in the other countries to prevent them from sending reinforcements to Kazamatsuri. With the recent revelation in America tying Gaia to a certain human rights organization, Gaia must have decided that the key is hiding in Kazamatsuri. They spread misinformation on a global scale to throw people off the trail. The Americans, the English, don't want to let the Japanese take all the credit for capturing the key, so they were initially willing to lend assistance. However, they were fed false intel that the key was hiding in their respective countries. They took the bait and canceled all commitments to send aid to Japan.
我々ガーディアンはそれほどまでに浅はかな組織だったのかしら。
I have to admit, yeah, I'm disappointed too. But I was disappointed in Gaia as well with the fact that like they were literally like killing each other, trying to like get upper hands against each other. It sucks. It's so human, but it sucks.
世界を束ねるのは容易ではないよ。各国各地方それぞれの事情、人種、都合がある。それらを束ねるには精通した地元の教区に権限を与えるのが一番だからね。
Had Guardian taken more of a monolithic top-down organizational structure like a military force, they likely would not have played to Gaia's tune. With guardians scattered through countless locations all over the world, each area's diocese is granted much greater authority, effectively making them self-ruled organizations in their own right. So, fracturing organizations like this, there's positive and negatives. And in my mind, like having a large, structured organization is best at doing coordinated activities. For example, this is a problem because they can't coordinate properly, because they can't put the resources where they need to be at the right time. And it's difficult because it's a lumbering mishmash of people. You have to negotiate to get anything done. But the benefit is it's really, really good for a structure of an organization that you really want to be secretive and that you want to be able to make maneuvers that could be considered very dangerous. Because it means that even if a cell is discovered and wiped out, there's a lot more left of the organization, and there's no direct ties to them, and so it would be very difficult to just hop from one group to another group, from one cell to another cell to another cell, or diocese to diocese to diocese, which are likely also fractured, and those fractures are also kept apart. It's very similar to how you would want to build like a rebellion or a terrorist organization, which ultimately are the same thing. It just depends on how you view them and how far you're willing to go, like on the scale of, war crimes. That's usually what flips the name in like the real sense. But regardless, any rebel group is going to be labeled a terrorist group by the authority that they are rebelling against. The system allows for each diocese to quickly resolve any problems with their own jurisdiction. However, when problems extend beyond their borders, they become bigger concern. This effectively turns into a downside. And the United States political system tried to marry these two ideas. That's why we have states and why we have a federal government. The idea was to break it up so that each state was allowed to have its own jurisdiction, to run its own rules and regulations based on the needs of the people at the local level, so people in New York City aren't making legislation that dictates the livelihood and lifestyle of people in Wyoming, because the lifestyles are so different between those two places. But you also have to have an effective overburden, or else you're going to essentially have the Holy Roman Empire, which while it was functional at the time, it really did kind of squandered growth, and it led to a territorial collapse over time. So you want to try and have a balance. At least that's what we strive for with our constitution.
見にくいですわね。みんな欲の皮を突っ張らせるから。
Again, maybe we're just not worth it. If we can't get over these basic humps, maybe we should just let the key do its thing, see what happens.
各教区はそれぞれ自分だけの手柄で鍵を確保しようとしている。困ったことに、ほぼすべての教区が
That's the real one.
それさえ認めていない。
Assassination of the key is one of Guardian's primary objectives. The countries are even keeping intel that the key is hiding in their very own country to themselves so they can monopolize everything. To that end, each diocese has completely ceased sharing the information and has kept their own special forces on standby only for their own respective countries. How could they possibly send their precious special forces to Kazamatsuri and risk the chance to claim the highest honor? Gaia's strategy to exploit their greed has paid off in dividends.
今回はガイアの圧勝だね。人類が数千年の間に築き上げてきた
That's
あ
elegant.
らゆる計略の限りを尽くされた。
It's elegant and depressing that they actually managed to do that so effectively.
ガイアのトップあるいは参謀には謀略の古典すべてに精通した老快な人物がいるとしか思えんね。
And ironically, no, it's Akane, the NEET that lives in the school at night.
しかし、私たちにはむしろこれほど大掛かりな陽動こそが風祭り市に鍵が潜伏していることの証拠となる。
そう見るべきだね。幸いなことに極東上層部はこれらがすべて世界規模での情報かく乱であると理解してくれている。
Alright, so that means they have some outside help.
我が教区も我が教区で手柄独占を目論んでいるようにしか見えませんわね。
Oh, right. She's saying, no, she's like, from my perspective, it might look like they care and actually help, but no, they're just doing the same thing.
我々は神の子だよ。天より与えられた手柄は等しく子らで分配しなくてはならないからね。
焼肉屋でそれが言えたら信じましょう。
おいおい、まだ根に持ってるのかね。
極東上層部は風祭り市に対し何か対策を？
日本にガイアと拮抗できる戦力は存在しないよ。
あら、 我が国には専守防衛の部隊がいたのでは？
You can't use conventional to fight.
災害救助専門だよ。災害が起これば出動するがね。
その災害は全地球規模になるでしょうが。
我が国は一度起こればきっちり学ぶ。しかし、二度起こらないことは学べない。
It's an interesting saying to say it, but he's right. It's like, it's one thing to have a response unit for a catastrophe, but like trying to mobilize and convince people of a catastrophe is coming, you can only do that so many times before people just stop believing.
一度でおしまいな事態には対応できない。
The key and Gaia, those two are left alone. Something will happen to the whole world, something that cannot be undone.
そういうことだ。本件は我が国には対応不能だ。上層部も理解している。すでに数機教団を経由して豪州とのアプローチを開始した。
Alright, yeah. I think I might have hit the nail on the head here with this idea that Guardian is an extension somehow of the Catholic Church. Like the names and the terms College of Cardinals, that's just got Catholic written all over it.
まったりと？
とんでもない。可及的速やかに最優先でまったりと。
They're going as quickly as they can at a leisurely pace.
数機教団はどの程度に状況の理解を？
寝耳に水だ。世界中の支部が手柄独占のため相互の連絡は断絶している。
Wow. I mean, Gaia is not much better, but Guardian feels so dumb. The two exchange scornful sighs with a shared grimace.
手柄独占に欲の皮を突っ張らせているのは、うちの上層部も数機教団も同じだ。その欲の皮で、なんとか他教区から特殊部隊を引っ張りたい。
いいじゃないですか。豪州と手柄の山分け。私、オージービーフ好きですし。
Are you talking about food? You're talking about, like, other forms of meat.
悪かった悪かった。今度霜降りをおごるよ。
Nishi Kyujo places the phone back on its receiver. A smile finds its way on her face. Like after enjoying a long conversation with an old friend, she brings a teacup filled with tea that has long gone cold to her lips. In truth, she found herself at an impasse. The situation had gotten so bad that she could do nothing else but laugh. Yeah, it's not looking good.
あら、しずるちゃん。いつの間に。
いつの間に。
霜降り肉より前？
焼肉屋さんより前。
Yeah, so she's been here like the whole time. Nishi Kyojo chuckles with a sigh. It looks like she doesn't need to explain the situation to Shizuru.
ま、そういうわけね。
焼肉。プルジョは。
Shizuru, I know you love food, but come on.
そっちの話じゃなくて。情報では、ガイアはすでに鍵の潜伏範囲を特定し、狭めつつあるという。私の見立てでは、連中は近いうちに大掛かりな一斉行動を起こすわね。
Gaia's ability to detect the key exceeds Guardian's. Once they narrow down her location as much as possible, they'll go for the hunt. If we let that slide, then it will be too late.
連中に先んじられるわけにはいかないわ。我々が先んじ、イニシアチブを奪い返さねばならない。
先んじなければ、負け？
ええ、そうよ。世の中、すべては先んじたものの勝ち。恋もビジネスも。
Uh-huh. Business and love, sure.
焼肉も。
And yakiniku. Shizuru, I'm gonna have so much fun doing her route. I can already tell.
後出しで勝てるのは？
じゃんけんだけ。
よくできました。ところで、ルチアちゃんは？今日、
先んじられた。
Uh-huh.
え？何？
Wait, what? Well, she made the first move. Okay. So we're just on date. I think we're gonna have to save the date for next time. Yeah! Oh, I'm gonna be so excited. So, good episode. Lots of good feels, good dissection of like just the situation with Kotorou and Lucia and just kind of getting the stage all set. And then we get some of the background story about what Guardian's doing and how much Guardian sucks. Too prideful, far too prideful. It's like in 1,000 years preparing for the exact event that they are here to prepare for, it's like they forgot the reason why they coordinated to begin with. Oh well. History repeats itself, as always. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But I'm curious to see what's going to be happening. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel and sharing these wonderful stories with me. I'm very excited to see this continue. And it's also nice to kind of get to a good wrapping up point, because lately, I'll tell you, I've been recording some monsters of episodes for the series that we've been doing. Upon reading this, it was after the Friday video went up, which was Fruit of Grisaya, and in that one people were commenting like an hour and like 20 minutes or something. That's a nice juicy long episode. And I was like, and I'm sitting here knowing that right around the corner is the Muzzle Up episode that's like almost 2 hours long. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm spoiling or making your lives difficult at times. Because I know for me, I struggle watching a video that's longer than an hour. Like, that gets to the point where it's like, I have to make sure I come back to it or I forget about it. I don't want it to be so long that it's like difficult to hold your attention, or like your life, has to do stuff and you're not around, or you have to like interrupt your own like situation. Like, I don't know. So that's not going to be a very common thing, but I also understand that there's some times where it's just impossible to stop because it would feel super unnatural, and I really hate breaking things up like that. So yeah, we'll have to see, but I imagine next episode's going to be pretty much just this date, because I can already tell it's going to be pretty banger. It's going to be so fun. I can't wait. It's going to be adorable. So let's just see how it all plays out, huh? What are the terrible, terrible things that are going to happen to make it so adorably cute and just cringy? Because that's what it's going to inevitably have, some cringe, but then it's also going to just have so much sweetness. It's just going to override all the cringe and make it all worth it. So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel and for being a part of this wonderful journey through the stories and through the game. And I hope you continue to come back for more and look at the other great content I have posting every week. It's interesting seeing a lot of other big YouTubers that I was inspired by starting to like phase away, like not necessarily going away, but like ratcheting it down or not pushing so hard. And it's one of those things that's interesting. Is like, is YouTube just gonna change? Is like content that I make gonna never be a thing really? Or could it be the beginning of new careers and new big names? I mean, on the younger side, I could see it. Like, kids are like just in high school or coming out of high school. Like, there's going to be some of them that are just going to grab all our attention and just rocket up to the top, But still, I'm going to make what I want to make because I love to make it. And as long as you keep enjoying it, it's going to keep happening. So thank you so much. And until next video, watching me up and see me next. I'll see you there.